what if every truck passing you on the interstate carried enough poison to erase an entire city? That's the chilling question federal agents confronted when they stopped a seemingly ordinary semi-truck along Interstate 5 and uncovered 269 pounds of fentanyl, enough to kill nearly 7 million Americans. It wasn't a movie script or an isolated bust. It was the revelation of how deep cartels have embedded themselves into the veins of America's transportation system. The driver, 44-year-old Isabel Villarreal Zapayan, appeared indistinguishable from any professional trucker. Clean record, steady work, no red flags. But when agents searched the trailer near the Washington-California border, they found sealed boxes of fentanyl pressed so neatly it resembled a legitimate commercial shipment. According to the Drug Enforcement Administration, the seizure marked one of the most significant narcotics interceptions in U.S. history, a lethal shipment that could have wiped out the population of Seattle-Tacoma and Spokane combined. President Donald Trump, addressing the growing fentanyl crisis earlier this year, called the incident a wake-up call that America's highways have become the cartel's silent front line. Reuters and BBC News both confirmed that fentanyl overdoses remain the #1 cause of accidental death in the United States in 2025, surpassing car accidents and gun violence combined. The White House has since announced the expansion of Operation Take Back America, aiming to combat cartel infiltration not just at the borders, but within the nation's core infrastructure, roads, ports, and logistic networks. What startled investigators most wasn't just the amount of narcotics, it was how seamless the operation appeared. The truck's papers were clean, the route was legal, even the cargo manifest looked legitimate. A federal official quoted by The Guardian described it as the perfect camouflage death hidden in plain sight. Experts from Jane's Defense Weekly have drawn parallels between this cartel logistics strategy and military infiltration tactics used in hybrid warfare, where civilian systems are subverted to hide hostile operations. The cartels, they argue, now operate with similar sophistication, blending with normal commerce to evade detection. The highway has become their battlefield, and America's open roads their weapon. Behind this single truck lies a bigger question: how many more are still driving undetected, carrying the same deadly cargo? Homeland Security sources estimate that for every major bust, at least 10 shipments succeed in reaching their destination. That chilling ratio underscores a terrifying reality. This was not a one-time failure, but part of a systemic infiltration. The shock of the Washington seizure triggered an immediate tightening of inspection protocols across western states. New detection technologies are being rushed into service, including AI-based cargo scanners at weigh stations and chemical-sniffing drones now deployed along major trade corridors. But can technology alone stop a criminal enterprise that adapts faster than enforcement can react? The I-5 corridor, stretching from Mexico to Canada, carries more than 10,000 commercial trucks a day. It is the spine of West Coast commerce, and now potentially the main artery of America's narcotics crisis. Each vehicle, each trailer now represents a question mark. Are we sharing the road with commerce or catastrophe? As the story unfolds, the focus shifts from this single bust to the deeper machinery behind it, the architects who built an empire of deception on the backbone of America's logistics system. Who are they, and how did they turn the nation's highways into their smuggling empire? What investigators uncovered next sent shockwaves through every federal agency involved. The fentanyl seized in Washington wasn't the result of one rogue trucker. It was part of a sprawling industrial-scale network that stretched from Sinaloa, Mexico, through California, Oregon, and all the way to Washington state. A secret highway empire operating in plain sight. Federal indictments revealed that two Sinaloa-based brothers, Rosario Abel Joaquin Camargo Banuelos and Francisco Fernando Camargo Banuelos, were the masterminds behind this logistics web. They didn't rely on smugglers sneaking across dusty border paths. Instead, they built what agents now call the Phantom Fleet, a fleet of legitimate appearing commercial vehicles operated under fake companies, complete with authentic business licenses, insurance, and electronic shipping documentation. As one DEA official told BBC News, they industrialized drug trafficking. This operation had functioned undetected for nearly 3 years. It mimicked lawful freight routes, embedded itself within normal supply chains, and took advantage of America's reliance on just-in-time logistics. Trucks ran on schedules that matched legitimate deliveries, sometimes even carrying partial legitimate loads mixed with concealed narcotics. Experts from Defense News compared it to a hybridized gray zone operation, where illicit activity thrives by disguising itself among legitimate trade flows. The scale was staggering. Between 2023 and mid-2025, law enforcement seized 465 pounds of methamphetamine, 269 pounds of fentanyl, 23 pounds of cocaine, and 6.4 pounds of heroin tied to this network. More than 19 individuals across multiple states were arrested or identified as participants. Reuters recently confirmed that several of these front companies had even received minor state-level transportation subsidies before their criminal ties were discovered, a sign of how convincing they had embedded themselves into the legal system. But the most disturbing element wasn't the drugs, it was the logistics intelligence. Investigators discovered encrypted communication systems, dispatch centers operating from rented warehouses in Tacoma and Medford, and a sophisticated accounting network that balanced the books like a Fortune 500 company. One federal analyst from Homeland Security described it as a mirror version of legitimate US freight logistics, only optimized for criminal gain. These cartels were not smuggling drugs anymore, they were operating a parallel transportation economy. Each truck represented not just a delivery of narcotics, but a node in a meticulously coordinated network designed to outpace enforcement and blend with commerce. According to The Guardian, U.S. intelligence agencies have since traced at least 4 other cartel-affiliated logistics webs operating along major interstates I-10 in the south, I-40 through the Midwest I-80 crossing the Central Corridor, and I-95 along the East Coast. Each uses similar methods: legitimate trucking firms corrupted from within data manipulation in freight registries, and corrupted drivers who were either bribed, blackmailed, or unaware of the full scope of their cargo. The implications are massive. This isn't just a criminal issue, it's a national infrastructure breach. The same systems that move America's food, fuel, and medicine are being exploited to move its deadliest poisons. As President Trump noted in a July 2025 Homeland Security briefing, when the arteries of our commerce become the veins of a cartel, it's not just a drug problem, it's an invasion through logistics. The federal response is growing, but so too is the sophistication of the enemy. The question now confronting U.S. intelligence is chilling: how many more hidden networks are using America's roads as their battlefield, and how deep does this shadow empire go? How did one of the world's most dangerous cartels recruit the very people entrusted to keep America moving? The answer lies in a calculated manipulation of trust and desperation. Investigations by Reuters and Al Jazeera in 2025 revealed that the Sinaloa cartel deliberately targeted vulnerable segments of the trucking industry, especially independent drivers and small freight operators struggling with rising fuel costs, post-pandemic debt, and unstable contracts. Recruiters posing as logistics subcontractors offered high-paying rush shipments that appeared legitimate. In many cases, the drivers never realized what they were transporting until the busts were made. Isabel Villarreal Zapay, the driver caught in Washington, was one of them. Her background showed no criminal record, no cartel connections, and a spotless safety history. To the untrained eye, she was a model citizen of the freight industry. But as BBC News later reported, she had unknowingly been delivering sealed containers prepared by intermediaries who were part of a Sinaloa logistics cell. By the time she realized something was wrong, federal surveillance had already begun closing in. Cartel infiltration didn't stop at drivers. Homeland Security discovered that several clerks and data technicians inside regional freight companies were bribed to alter cargo records and GPS routes. One anonymous federal source told The Guardian they learned how to hack the trucking system, not the trucks. That meant altering delivery logs so that illegal cargo blended seamlessly with legitimate freight schedules, all while moving under the radar of state inspection systems. The result was an invisible army of unwitting drivers ferrying poison across America. Experts at Jane's Defense Weekly described this as a form of civilian infiltration warfare, where non-combatant sectors, in this case the freight industry, are co-opted to serve criminal networks. Unlike the cartel mules of the past, these operators carried Department of Transportation numbers, insurance, and federal credentials. They were in every sense ghosts in plain sight. President Trump, in an address at a Homeland Security roundtable in Phoenix earlier this year, called this infiltration a direct assault on the working American. He announced new federal guidelines requiring biometric cargo verification and driver screening tied to the Department of Justice's counter-cartel database. As DW News reported, this initiative is part of a broader plan to secure critical transportation infrastructure, combining commercial oversight with national security protocols, a move once reserved for aviation now being adapted for trucking. Experts argue this marks a new era of homeland defense. The battlefield is no longer foreign, it's domestic, embedded in the heart of U.S. logistics. In an interview with Defense News, retired U.S. Army Colonel Michael Barron described the situation bluntly. Cartels are using American highways the same way insurgents use mountain passes, exploiting terrain we thought was safe. The societal cost is devastating. According to CDC data cited by Reuters, over 112,000 Americans died from synthetic opioid overdoses in the past year alone. Many of those doses can be traced back to shipments trafficked through legitimate channels like these. Every uninspected truck, every unchecked manifest is a potential delivery of death. And so the question remains, can America trust its own transportation workers again? Or has the line between commerce and crime blurred beyond recognition? Beneath the surface of this massive drug network lies a financial architecture that could rival a multinational corporation. What investigators discovered wasn't a ragtag smuggling ring, it was a fully developed shadow economy, using a web of shell companies, falsified tax records, and forged import-export contracts. Cartel financiers laundered millions through legitimate seeming freight businesses and regional banks. According to Reuters and The Guardian, investigators traced at least $42 million in illicit proceeds through U.S. financial systems between 2023 and 2025. Most of it flowed through small logistics firms in California and Oregon, companies with spotless public profiles, real employees, and even government contracts. To disguise the money trail, the cartel mixed clean and dirty revenue streams, cycling funds through fuel purchases, maintenance invoices, and international shipping accounts. Each transaction appeared ordinary until federal accountants started matching it against encrypted communications intercepted by Homeland Security. One Homeland Security agent described it as a ghost corporation running a ghost fleet. These front businesses weren't just financial instruments, they were operational control centers. They scheduled shipments, booked legitimate loads, filed insurance claims, and even used AI-driven dispatch systems to optimize delivery routes for both lawful and unlawful cargo. Cartel strategists exploited the same tools legitimate American logistics companies use: cloud-based dispatching, GPS tracking, and automatic freight billing. But as Defense News noted in a 2025 report, they inverted the technology's purpose. Instead of ensuring transparency, it ensured invisibility. Algorithms were modified to reroute or temporarily disable tracking during critical smuggling windows. When agents raided a warehouse in Medford, Oregon, they found multiple servers running fake dispatch software, an imitation of a popular U.S. logistics platform. This digital camouflage allowed cartel coordinators in Sinaloa to manage operations remotely without ever setting foot on American soil. The BBC later confirmed that several of these fake freight companies had insurance policies underwritten by legitimate U.S. carriers unaware of their clients' true activities. That made seizures and forfeitures far more complex, forcing federal prosecutors to navigate a legal minefield of liability and restitution. The money laundering methods also crossed borders. Intelligence gathered in cooperation with Mexico's Financial Intelligence Unit (FIU) revealed payments funneled through cryptocurrency wallets and offshore accounts in Panama and Belize. The sophistication shocked even seasoned investigators. They weren't hiding cash under mattresses anymore, said one DOJ financial analyst. They were moving money like Wall Street traders. By mid-2025, the operation's financial collapse began to ripple across regional economies. Small trucking subcontractors that unknowingly serviced cartel-linked companies suddenly lost contracts, putting hundreds of legitimate drivers out of work. Economists from DW estimated that the Washington-Oregon freight corridor suffered nearly $90 million in lost revenue due to cascading supply disruptions. President Donald Trump, during a press briefing in July 2025, called the bust a necessary shock to the system, emphasizing that restoring integrity to America's logistics sector was as vital as defending its borders. New Treasury Department protocols now require enhanced financial vetting for logistics companies receiving federal contracts or subsidies, a move applauded by law enforcement but criticized by some industry groups as excessive. Still, experts agree that this exposure changed everything. The US didn't just uncover a cartel, it discovered a mirror version of its own economy, one that mimicked its efficiency, exploited its technology, and thrived within its blind spots. The line between commerce and criminal enterprise has never been thinner. And with so much of the economy tied to the highways, the question remains, what happens when America's arteries of prosperity become its most dangerous vulnerabilities? By mid-2025, it became impossible to dismiss the cartel infiltration of the freight system as merely a criminal issue. It had evolved into a national security crisis. What once seemed like isolated smuggling cases now revealed a deeper pattern. America's economic arteries had been systematically exploited by foreign criminal powers. Intelligence assessments shared between the DEA Homeland Security and the Pentagon's Counter Threat Office describe the situation as logistical warfare. These cartels are not fighting with guns or bombs. They are attacking the United States through the very infrastructure that sustains it. Every truck carrying illegal narcotics across the interstate becomes a weapon of disruption, one overdose at a time, one corrupted freight contract at a time. The realization forced a historic policy shift. President Donald Trump ordered the formation of a Joint Infrastructure Defense Task Force in June 2025, integrating the DEA, FBI, Department of Transportation, and the Department of Defense. According to Reuters, the mission extends beyond drug seizures. Its focus is protecting the nation's logistics from subversion, securing ports, highways, and commercial data systems as if they were battlefields. Military analysts at Jane's Defense Weekly argue that this marks the first time in U.S. history that civilian infrastructure has been formally classified as a potential national defense asset vulnerable to foreign exploitation. The report warned that the same infiltration model used by Sinaloa could be replicated by other transnational networks, not just for narcotics, but for weapons smuggling, human trafficking, or even sabotage. The numbers already justify the alarm. In 2024 alone, federal agencies seized more than 14 tons of fentanyl and methamphetamine, combined an amount that by DEA calculations represents over 35 billion lethal doses. Homeland Security's acting director Colin Jackson told BBC News that these are no longer scattered criminal shipments, they are strategic supply chains engineered for national impact. Experts from The Guardian and DW News emphasize that the crisis mirrors challenges faced by Europe, where drug syndicates have similarly infiltrated shipping and trucking sectors from Rotterdam to Hamburg. In both cases, the enemy exploits openness, the very trait that defines free economies. America's strength, its vast network of open highways, has become its soft spot. But amid the crisis, a new model of enforcement emerged. The U.S. introduced AI-based cargo profiling algorithms developed jointly with DARPA and private cybersecurity firms. These systems cross-reference driver histories, cargo weights, and route anomalies in real time. Early results show a 32% increase in interdictions across Western states since their deployment in August 2025. Still, even advanced technology faces limits. Criminals learn quickly, and as one senior analyst from Defense News warned, every algorithm creates a new blind spot. That's why the federal strategy now combines machine learning with human intelligence, embedding undercover agents in logistics hubs, and training truck stop inspectors as counter-infiltration specialists. The societal repercussions remain profound. Rural communities, once thriving on freight traffic, now view commercial trucks with suspicion. Small businesses face stricter compliance checks. Trust the foundation of trade is fraying. In a televised address from the White House Situation Room, President Trump stated, "We are defending the homeland, not just from missiles or hackers, but from poison hidden inside commerce itself." As the nation adjusts to this new reality, one question looms larger than any highway: can America protect its open economy without closing it off? The response came swiftly and with military precision. In August 2025, under direct authorization from President Donald Trump, federal agencies launched Operation Take Back America, a nationwide initiative designed to dismantle transnational criminal networks that had turned the nation's freight system into their private supply chain. The operation became the most ambitious interagency strike since the post-9/11 Patriot Act era, combining intelligence sharing, digital surveillance, and field enforcement in all 50 states. The results were immediate. Within 3 weeks, coordinated raids across Washington, Oregon, California, and Arizona led to the arrest of 19 key figures, including the Camargo Banuelos brothers in Mexico, apprehended through cooperation with the Mexican Navy and Interpol. According to Reuters, the seizures included 9 kilograms of methamphetamine, 5 kilograms of fentanyl, 4 kilograms of cocaine, 1 kilogram of heroin, and more than $342,000 in cash assets. But beyond the numbers, this operation achieved something far more critical. It exposed how deeply cartel logistics had rooted themselves into legitimate trade. Homeland Security's Colin Jackson hailed the operation as a blueprint for 21st century interdiction. He explained to BBC News that Take Back America was not just about arrests, it was about reclaiming the highways, ports, and borders that keep our country alive. Advanced scanning drones, AI-driven freight monitors, and predictive analytics now track cargo anomalies in real time, creating what Defense News calls the digital Iron Curtain of commerce. Meanwhile, the Trump administration announced a $3.2 billion investment into border and inland detection technologies. DW reported that much of the funding will go toward mobile spectrometers, biometric cargo seals, and training programs for local law enforcement in corridor states. Federal task forces now conduct random deep inspection convoys on interstates, and the Department of Transportation has begun revoking licenses from freight companies with even minimal cartel links. Yet despite the triumphs, experts warn that the war is far from over. Cartels have already begun shifting tactics, relying more heavily on human couriers, encrypted rideshare logistics, and drone-assisted drop points along secondary roads. According to The Guardian, some factions are experimenting with autonomous freight containers capable of self-navigation, an eerie reminder that the technological arms race is accelerating. Still, the success of Operation Take Back America represents a turning point. For the first time in decades, interagency collaboration has proven that large-scale infiltration can be dismantled when intelligence, technology, and political will align. The operation's legal framework now extends internationally, targeting cartel assets abroad through the Department of Justice's Office of International Affairs. But beneath the victory lies a sobering realization. America's highways, once the proud arteries of its economic might, were used to deliver death, and that trust will take years to rebuild. As analysts at Jane's Defense Weekly put it, the next battlefield isn't fought with armies or aircraft, it's fought with algorithms and 18-wheelers. So what happens next? Will America's newfound vigilance be enough to keep its roads safe, or will the cartels find new cracks to exploit in a system built on speed and profit? As this shadow war continues, the lesson is clear. Vigilance is the new patriotism, and awareness is the new armor. Subscribe for more in-depth reports as the battle for America's highways and its future continues. The 2025 fentanyl bust along Interstate 5 revealed more than a truckload of poison. It exposed a cartel-engineered shadow economy operating inside America's freight network. Investigations uncovered a parallel logistics empire run by the Sinaloa cartel, complete with fake freight companies, legal-looking documentation, and corrupted drivers hidden in plain sight. This infiltration evolved into a national security crisis, forcing the Trump administration to classify U.S. logistics as critical defense infrastructure. Through Operation Take Back America, federal agencies struck back, dismantling the network and arresting key players on both sides of the border. The operation's use of AI cargo scanners, chemical drones, and interagency intelligence set a new precedent for domestic defense. Yet experts warn that cartels are adapting, turning to drone deliveries, encrypted couriers, and autonomous systems. The crisis redefined Homeland Security. The battleground is no longer just the border, but the highways and supply chains that connect the nation. America's challenge now lies in defending openness without sacrificing freedom, ensuring that the engines of trade never again become the arteries of